Okay, I'm just going to give you a little brief overview of the Bill of Rights and kind of talk through this, understanding why they were created and who was basically supportive of those things, and kind of run through a few of these amendments to the Constitution that get added pretty much directly after the Constitution is going to be ratified and Congress meets. Okay, as most of you probably already know, it is the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, ratified in 1791, and pretty much going to be limitations on the power of the government. And as I mentioned before, people who support it are going to be those known mainly as anti-federalists who were scared of strong central governments, so they wanted to put limitations on the government and basically protect our civil rights or civil liberties, those freedoms that we oftentimes say that we believe in very strongly. Okay, one of the things that is adopted in the First Amendment, which has got varying parts to it, so just kind of keep in mind that it's not just one thing, is going to be freedom of religion. At this point, we have no official religion, so basically what they create is the idea of separation of church and state, and at the same time, people can't be treated differently because of their religious beliefs. So we don't have an official religion, nor do we say that somebody can't have one. So our country doesn't have an official religion, nor do individuals should be basically persecuted for having religious beliefs geared towards a certain way. The second part is going to be dealing with the freedom of speech. Basically, we can express our opinions, but there are limitations on that. Like slander, you can't lie about someone trying to damage their reputation. Libel is going to be actually printing these lies. So slander is telling it and speaking it. Libel is printing it, and then you can't endanger the country or public safety. So you can't basically go into a crowded theater and say fire, because that could cause or damage or endanger public safety. And somewhat similarly is going to be the freedom of the press. You can't print opinions and read others' points of views. I mean, like, you can print, you can print opinions and readers' other point of views. Limits those, kind of going back to that previous one, is libel. You can't print something or endanger public safety because of that. And there's going to be several court cases dealing with freedom of the press and freedom of speech. Okay, the next part 4, is freedom of assembly. Now, that's the right to meet together for any lawful purpose. It's got to be lawful, and it must be considered peaceful. The government can regulate when and where you can do this, but can't stop you from doing it. And it's the right to form and join an organization or group as well falls under that. So sometimes you have to actually petition to the government or get permission of when and where you can hold these ideas. They can regulate when and where it can occur. So just understand that, but mainly looking at it from a peaceful standpoint. So if somebody's protesting something, they may have a march or something like that, like we've seen in the past, oftentimes in places like Washington, D.C. And the last part of this is going to be known as the right to petition. You can ask the government to change a law or make a new law. So this is basically a right to express our ideas to the government. The second one is going to be known as the right to bear arms and serve in a state militia. Oftentimes this is a very heated, debated topic dealing with the idea of carrying weapons such as firearms. The Third Amendment goes back to the idea of the Quartering Act. Government can't force citizens to quarter troops or soldiers in homes during peacetime. The fourth deals with protecting against unreasonable search and seizures. Basically, you have to have a search warrant in order to search an individual. Allows law enforcement to search a home and take specific items to be used as evidence in court. Also granted by judge if believes search warrant will provide evidence, but they have to seek that out before, so they can't just go through your car unless they have just cause, and you hear about this all the time. Okay, the next ones, or a series of those, kind of deal with the ideas of the courts. So the Fifth Amendment, rights of persons accused of a crime. You have protection against double jeopardy. Basically, you can't be tried for the same crime twice. The right to remain silent, can't be forced to testify against yourself. So sometimes you hear people saying, I plead the Fifth, and can't be denied life, liberty, or property without due process. They have to go through the process of the court system and various other degrees. They can't deny that process. Okay, as I mentioned before, these deal kind of with court cases. The Sixth Amendment, accused must be informed of charges against them. You have to be told what you're being charged with. You have the right to trial by jury, a right to a speedy and public trial, so one doesn't lag on, and a right to have a lawyer for defense, right to question all witnesses in a case. You have those rights. The next one is considered the seventh, being right to trial by jury, or jury trial in civil cases involving more than $20 fines or anything of that nature. The eighth deals with cruel and unusual punishment for crimes, forbids unusually high bail as well. So Sometimes this is debated on whether the death penalty and certain forms of the death penalty are considered cruel and unusual punishment. And then you have the Ninth Amendment, which is sometimes called the People's Amendment. Rights of the people aren't limited just to those listed in the Constitution, so there may be some things outside of that. And then the last one is the 10th Amendment. Powers not specifically given to the national government by the Constitution are reserved to the states, sometimes called the states' rights or reserved powers. So those things that deal with like a driver's license, education, and so forth, boundaries, the idea of the state, they fall within the state. There's requirements and freedoms that are guaranteed by the states. And lastly, here's just a depiction of the various ones, and you can kind of see, if you want to pause this and kind of read through it, it is a little bit blurry, but you can kind of visually see what's going on. So you've got 1 through 10 there, and they kind of give you a visual image to kind of explain it. So if you want to pause this and look at that, that's great. But also don't forget about that video that I've posted regards to the issue of the guy riding around on the motorcycle going to various places talking about the Bill of Rights and our liberties and so forth. You can find that, I believe, on Edmodo, so if you want to check that out, I think it's called Constitution USA. Check out that link. It's a good little introductory. You only have to watch maybe the first 10 minutes to get kind of the understanding that's going on. Good luck.